Hello, my dear clear sighted students. Glad to have you back. This is the second part of the content Everything I Need to Know I Learned in the Forest by Vandana Shiva. Well, before continuing further, I kindly request you to read the text at least 3 to 4 times, as it is one of the most important contents of the prescribed textbook due to its complex and informative nature. As you all know, in the previous e class, we learned about the following points, that is, teachings of nature. Vandana Shiva's early life is dealt with. Her involvement in Chipko movement is detailed. Monocultures of the mind has been elucidated. And finally, rights of nature on the global stage has been interpreted in the previous session. Before moving further with the text and its explanation, I would like to help you know the reason behind introducing this text to you all. The reason is to make you understand the ill consequences of consumerism and capitalism, and also further to help you imbibe and learn the better consequences of the practice of environmentalism. So I hope you all know the reason behind it. So, keeping the reason in mind, let us move further with the text. Dead Earth Worldview is what we have installed as the subheading. Dead Earth is nothing but considering the Earth as dead. This was courtesy Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution, as you all know, happened between 1760 and 1840. The pioneers of Industrial Revolution were European countries and, most importantly, the United States, during which rise in factories took place as people started treating the vibrant earth as a dead matter and further started extracting raw materials in abundance. The result of which is monocultures replaced diversity. Well, monoculture is nothing but the cultivation of a single crop as against multi-crop cultivation, which is nothing but diversity or polycultures. So due to extraction of raw materials in abundance, monocultures paved the way. For themselves, and monoculture not only in terms of cultivation of crops but also in terms of the way we lived our lives. We started developing this new culture, that is single mindset culture in our lifestyle. We narrowed down our existence itself by abolishing the practice of diversity and polyculture from our lives. As you all know, raw materials and dead matter were the new things that replaced a vibrant earth, a green earth. Further, terra nullius, that is the empty land, legally deemed to be uninhabited, replaced terra madre, that is nothing but mother earth. Terra nullius happens to be a Latin expression, and terra madre is an Italian expression. Due to heavy extraction of raw materials in abundance and during industrial revolution, people shifted their perception. Their perspective was more towards considering the earth as the empty land rather than considering it as mother earth. Vandana Shiva elucidates her point by introducing these two main points in her book. Please note this is very important as far as 1 mark and 4 mark questions are concerned. Terra nullius means the empty land, terra madre means mother earth. Let us continue with the next subheading, that is viewpoints on mother earth. These are the contradicting viewpoints of two prominent personalities that Vandana Shiva has considered here. First one is Francis Bacon, who has a negative approach towards the mother earth, that is nature. Francis Bacon, father of modern science, overpowers science and the inventions as against nature. He says, I quote, science has the power to conquer, subdue, and shake the nature and her foundations. I unquote. Here, he claims that science has the power to shake the foundations of nature. Well, we all have learned since our childhood that nature is not only the mother earth but also the very reason that science is today for us what it is because nature, be it the discovery of gravity, be it any discovery and invention that is courtesy nature, that is there in the science. But Francis Bacon, in a contradicting manner, says science has the power to conquer, subdue, and shake, for that matter, the nature and her foundations. Carolyn Merchant, in other hand, who is a philosopher and historian, points out that the shift of perspective from terra madre, that is nurturing earth, to terra nullius, that is dead and manipulable matter, is an act of capitalists who are least regretful and remorseful for practicing capitalism. So she says here with her lines, I quote, one does not readily slay a mother, dig into her entrails for gold, or mutilate her body. I unquote. So she claims here that the shift of perspective before industrial revolution, the perception was nothing but we treated the earth as our mother, that is nurturing mother. the giver. But whereas during and post industrial revolution, we started considering the Mother Earth as dead and manipulable matter. Thus, she says, one should not do that because we cannot slay our own mother just because we get to know that she is lucrative, profitable. We cannot dig her entrails for gold and damage her body. So, we all have witnessed the quarry workers mining. We have seen how mutilation happens of the earth just because of capitalism. That is incorrect, is what Caroline Merchant says with her contradicting point as against Francis Bacon. So these are the two viewpoints on Mother Earth, two contradicting ones. So please keep note of this. Vandana Shiva further propagates the views of Caroline Merchant, who urges people not to be capitalists in the following part of the text: nature as a teacher. Vandana Shiva propagates Caroline Merchant's views, who urges people not to be capitalists but to respect and honor nature by embracing ecological paradigm which promotes interdependency of every individual of ecosystem with the others and not humans as the superior to the others. So Vandana Shiva urges us to have a shift of perspective from nature as dead matter to considering nature and especially ecosystem as a part of us and not considering ourselves superior to the other beings in the ecosystem. So nature teaches us, helps us teach this particular shift of perspective. Later in the text, nature teaches us earth democracy. Freedom and equality is what democracy stands for. So Earth University teaches us the following points, that is, freedom for all species to evolve within the web of life. So as humans, we do not have any legality or any kind of onus that we have on the other species that evolve within the web of life. One must, that is, we as individuals must consider and provide freedom to each and every species that exists in the web of life. Further, nature teaches us the responsibility to recognize, protect, and respect the rights of the other species. And finally, Earth University, through Earth Democracy, teaches us to have a shift from anthropocentrism to ecocentrism. Please pay attention, this is a very important point where Vandana Shiva tells us to have a shift from anthropocentrism, which means considering humans as superior beings, to ecocentrism, that is considering the nature itself superior and we humans as part of the ecosystem. Later in the text, Earth University, which is set up as a biodiversity farm by Vandana Shiva under the title Navdanya Farm, offers two important courses, that is A to Z of organic farming and agroecology is one course, and the second being Gandhi and globalization. So these two courses are being taught at Navdanya Farm, that is Earth University, that is set up by Vandana Shiva, wherein the participants are the farmers, the children, and the people across the globe. So, nature as a teacher has these points that are to be practiced and learned. Moving further, the next subheading is the poetry of the forest. Vandana Shiva sought the inspiration to set up the Earth University, that is Navdanya Farm, from the polymath himself, Rabindranath Tagore, who has been a major influence in her life. Rabindranath Tagore, as we all know, he is a national poet and a Nobel Prize laureate. Tagore established a learning center in Shantiniketan in West Bengal, which is nothing but a forest school which became a university in 1921. This was possible because he was inspired by nature. He established this institution to offer a rebirth of Indian culture, that is, to create Indian cultural renaissance. Renaissance is nothing but rebirth of Indian culture. In Tapovan, that is forest of purity, in his essay Tapovan, he further celebrates the power and importance of forest by stating that it is a source of regeneration, that is, forest is a source of regeneration, material and intellectual for the humans. So one should not consider it as a dead matter, but one should consider it as a source of regeneration, material and intellectual. Indian society is full of diversified people and its culture. So culture of the forest has fueled the culture of Indian society, is what Tagore states. And the following line, democratic pluralism is a principle of Indian civilization, is what he says. Pluralism, that is democratic pluralism, is nothing but coexistence of multiple culture and customs with complete freedom and respect. That is what happens in the forest, and it is a unifying principle of Indian civilization, is what Tagore tells us here. Vandana Shiva further expounds Tagore's unifying principle of life in diversity by explaining it through following claims. There are two claims that she states here. First one is diversity without unity. There is full of diversity, but without any unity. If that is a setup, then it is a source of conflict and contest. There shall always be, there will always be too much of conflict, chaos, and contest if there is only diversity and no unity. And in the second point, she says that there is only unity and no diversity. If such a setup is there, then it becomes a ground for external control. So, one prime example that I shall give you is how the Britishers came to India. Right? There was a lot of unity amongst us, and it became a ground for external control. One did not have different views as far as leading the states was concerned. We all had a unified principle. A lot of unity was there, but not a lot of diversity was to be found in terms of reigning the states was concerned. So it became a ground for external control. So she states that diversity without unity is of no use because it invites conflict and contest. And secondly, very importantly, she says unity without diversity also is of no use because it becomes a ground for external control. So, in continuation with the poetry of the forest, Rabindranath Tagore has his views on forest. So he viewed forest to be a source of beauty and joy. If one has to attain the contentment in terms of experiencing beauty and joy, the forest is the first and foremost source. And secondly, he says forest is a source of an art and aesthetic. And finally, he considers forest as the source of harmony and perfection. So Tagore views forest as the source of beauty, joy, art, aesthetic, harmony, and perfection. Further, Vandana Shiva explains principle of equity, that is enoughness, by borrowing Rabindranath Tagore's quote, that is, I quote, "Know all that moves in the moving world as enveloped by God and find enjoyment through renunciation, not through greed of possession." So, I unquote. So, Tagore in this quote says that all that moves in the moving world as enveloped by God, God is be all and end all of the earth, and He asks the beings on the earth to find enjoyment through renunciation, not through greed of possession. If we start possessing too many things, accumulating too many things, exploiting too many things, then we shall not find enjoyment. Instead, we should find enjoyment by sacrificing and renouncing, is what Tagore says. So, Vandana Shiva advises us to incorporate the principle of enoughness. She compels us to do the following things, that is, she compels us to enjoy the nature without exploiting and accumulating. One should not exploit the nature and accumulate the nature. One should follow the principle of enoughness, that is, One should be contented in what he gets rather than accumulating more in the name of greed. Secondly, she says that one should enjoy through renunciation, that is, having a sacrificial attitude towards enjoyment. Thirdly, she claims that exploitation and accumulation promotes consumerism. If we go on exploiting the nature of, or if we go on accumulating the nature, we are promoting consumerism, is what she says. Consumerism is nothing but in the name of providing goods and services, one goes on consuming a lot of raw materials from the nature and starts exploiting the nature and accumulating the nature. So one should not continue doing so, is what Vandana Shiva claims. She advocates us to end the consumerism, which will further end the conflict between the following things, that is, greed and compassion. This never ending conflict between greed and compassion. How to treat the nature is what we have forgotten. We have a lot of greed towards accumulation, so which is what should end. That is possible with the end of consumerism. So if we end the consumerism, we shall end the greed and we shall have a lot of compassion towards nature, that is Mother Earth. With the end of consumerism, we are ending the conflict between conquest and cooperation. We need to coexist with the other species of nature, that is ecosystem, rather than having conquest with the other species. And third, very importantly, one should stop the violence and have harmony instead with the nature. So with this, we come to the end of the content that is provided to us. Let us know about the writer in depth. She was born on 5th of November 1952. She happens to be internationally renowned activist for her biodiversity and a celebrated figure of anti-globalization movement. She is also a Yes magazine contributing editor. She has authored more than 20 books. Some notable ones are Stolen Harvest, The Hijacking of the Global Food Supply, Earth Democracy, Justice, Sustainability and Peace. Third very important noteworthy book, that is Staying Alive, and fourth one being Soil Not Oil. She has been awarded with the following awards. There are a lot many awards, but the notable ones are Right Livelihood Award in 1993, Sydney Peace Prize 2010, and Mirodi Award, that is 2016. So these is nothing but this is all about Vandana Shiva. I hope you have understood the content, the explanation of the content. I urge you, as I did earlier, please go through the content, read it, reread it multiple times for a better understanding. As I said, it is one of the very important contents of the textbook. Thank you very much, dear students. Wish you all the best. Thank you.